Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday, happy Tuesday, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'd like to give a big shout out to our new viewers who are joining us on E360 TV. We're super excited to have you. And that means we are available on Roku, Amazon Fire, as well as Apple TV through E360 TV. Welcome to our new friends on Instagram. We're glad to have you. And hello to our friends on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Our show today is a woman's prerogative, and our topic is an interesting one: sustainable fashion choices and ethical brands. If you've seen the show before, you know I'm not alone. We have our panel who's going to be joining me. And I just want to announce that this is a Woman's Prerogative Part 1, immediately being followed by Woman's Prerogative Part 2. So do stay with us. Joining us from London, it's Caroline HEWARD, the Harley Street stress expert. She's going to help you bust your stress. Hello, welcome.
Hello. I certainly will bust your stress.
Well, I think we could all use that right now. Here in the States, we have the eclipse going on. I can't really see it from my studio here, but I understand that it's passing from Texas through to Maine. So a lot of people are stressed out, and I can't believe I'm talking to people who've told me they're not going to wear any preventative sunglasses, but I don't know. What can I tell you? Caroline, thanks for being here. We really appreciate you. And let's move on to Dr. Madalene Chan, who always has a song in her heart and can help you create your own custom music. Imagine that, a special song for a special occasion. Welcome, Dr. Chan. How are you today?
Hey, Dr. Jacalyn. Hi, Caroline. I'm very well, actually. I'm just kind of, like you said about this eclipse, over here in the UK, it's 10 to 8 till, does it go on for an hour or something?
I read 2 hours and 26 minutes. I'm not sure if that's correct or not.
That's powerful, isn't it? Wow.
It really is. We've got our special guest, Dr. Justina MUTALE, who has been all over the world. I cannot keep up with her. She has been on so many stages and so many platforms, constantly giving back, supporting others, and help bringing education to people all across the world, giving them opportunities they might not have had before. Welcome, Dr. MUTALE. Hello.
Hello, Dr. Jacalyn. Hello, Caroline. Hello, Dr. Madeleine.
It's good to see you. Where in the world are you today?
I'm in London.
Okay, it says London. I wasn't sure if that's where you really were. Well, it's nice to have the three of you here today. I'm looking forward to this topic. So when you think about fashion and you think about sustainability, do they automatically go together in your mind?
I'd like to
Yes.
have my 2 pence on that. No, not really, because there's an awful lot of press, bad press even, about the fact that many companies that are cheaper labels, the type of companies that are mass producing, they generally are using countries for labor that are paying them very little in not very great conditions, which is causing the workforce health problems. And so we hear more about not sustainable than we do sustainable. And the other thing that comes to mind is expensive.
Expensive. Okay, we're going to come back to that. Dr. MUTALE, what do you think? What comes to mind when you think about fashion and sustainability? Do they typically go together?
Well, I think they could. I have an organization that works with fashion. It's called Positive Runway, the global catwalk to stop the spread of HIV and AIDS and anything negative. So we use fashion to highlight some of these things. And we did an event with the United Nations Global Forum on Migration and Development. And we had titled it Fashion Against human trafficking. It was actually catwalk against the human trafficking, but we were highlighting the same issues that Caroline has just brought up on how some of the high fashion or the luxury brands pay, first of all, they exploit migrant workers, and they pay them almost nothing, and yet they want to sell their products for so much more, very, very expensive, which is almost unreachable. Also, sustainability is about what does it take to produce, for example, a leather jacket? What goes into that, and how much is taken off the of the environment? How much water has been used? How much energy, electricity is used to produce just that one handbag? When you try to think of sustainability in producing these kinds of fashion, are we making the world sustainable? Are we taking due diligence on the impact of climate change? So there are so many issues that go into fashion that might make it sustainable. With my organization, we were trying to work on something that you might call ethical fashion. So this is fashion, for example, that gives back to society, and also it's fashion where no human or no environment is harmed in producing that fashion.
So many topics we could dive into right there. Thank you. And thanks for the work that you're doing in this area. So a question that I have as a follow-up, I was speaking with Caroline backstage. We did a show a couple of years ago when I first started with a fashion designer. He was in France, and he was sharing with us, and he mentioned Chanel, for example. I'm just going to use that as a name. But if someone hired Chanel to produce a dress that would cost $80,000, how many people actually would be working on that dress? So they would be getting paid. Now, to your point, I don't know how much they're getting paid or what the circumstances are in where they're working. And of course, we don't know. We're not saying anything. We're just talking hypothetically. And at the same time, that dress might be worn only one time by that person. And then it somehow is either it goes into the chain somewhere. And does it end up in a vintage store? I don't really know. As opposed to other thought process about how to manufacture clothing. So Dr. Chan, my question that I have for you is, I know that, you know, when it comes to fashion, I know you're not about the, you know, like me, I'm always made up, and I know that's not your thing. So what are your thoughts about how important it is to take the clothing that you currently have and either donate it or give it to someone, but that it stays in viability for other people to wear it, as opposed to constantly going and buying new things?
Great question, Dr. Jacalyn. I believe that, I mean, I'm a great fan. I love going around charity shops. I really do. I find charity shops are just where it's almost like you're giving that piece of clothing or that favorite item, you're giving it a new lease of life. At the same time, with the designers, there's a lot of fashion designers now that are taking their old creations, their old fashion of the season, and what they're doing is they're remaking a new style. So instead of having new materials that to draw upon, they're recreating with the last season's fashions, and they are creating a new line of a collection. So I find that quite fascinating in the way that the fashion industry is changing. And in that way, they're not going to implement a lot of people spending a lot of expenditure to get the silks, to get the resources, the materials, and less people being manipulated, or how would you say the word manipulated in poorer countries where labor, slave labor. I hate that word, but yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. I want to go around and have each of you weigh in on what the other has said. And I have an additional question for you. If you had the opportunity, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, you might feel differently than you do today, but you could buy one item of clothing, but it was expensive. It was, let's say it's $1,000, but it was made by a main, you know, a very well-known designer, and it's going to last for 10, 15, 20 years. Or you can go buy 10 of that and it's really cheap and inexpensive and they're not going to last. What would you do? Make the significant investment in one piece, or buy a lot of other pieces that are less money? Dr. Mutale, what do you think?
I'd rather buy a lot of pieces that cost less money. This is because even if I were to buy that very expensive thing, I find that now with social media and also how many times can you wear something? You know, how many times can you repeat the same kind of clothing over and over again? So while as it can last 20 years, but if it is a dress, normally you can't wear it that many times. You can wear it once, twice, and that's it, because you can't repeat that, especially now with the in the times of social media, where wherever you go, pictures are taken and pictures are posted all over the place. I think I'd rather go for the cheap one, because I know I'm only wearing it once or twice, rather than spend a lot of money on just a little piece of clothing. And especially that I am a philanthropist and I'm a humanitarian, and I'm thinking, well, why should I spend 80,000 pounds? And I'm also from Africa. 80,000 pounds on a dress, 80,000 pounds is a lot of money in Africa. I could build a school with that. So I wouldn't spend money on that. And as I said, my organization was working on ethical fashions, and these are some of the things that we take into consideration. What is the impact onto the environment, and of course onto humanity? If I'm going to draw away that 80 pounds just for a dress that I wear once or twice, for me it doesn't make economic sense at all.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. And obviously, you mentioned a number of things that are spot on about social media. Everybody's looking to see what everyone's wearing. And you do a lot of speaking engagements, and you are out there in the public domain. So she's in the same thing again. There she is. So that's a really good point. And something I want to tie back into when you mentioned slave labor, I don't know what the appropriate term is, but where people are employed to produce knockoffs. We're going to get to that in a moment. Caroline, what say you? One expensive piece or numerous less expensive pieces?
Well, this is a big question, because when I was going to a lot of formal functions, I used to tell people how much I'd actually spent on what looked like a very, very glamorous outfit, dress that was, really, it looked the part. And I always made sure that I wore very nice dresses. So when I was quite young, I would spend as much as I possibly could, because I had the money and I wanted to always look good. And then as I got older and I started to go to more formal functions, I had to make the budget work. And so one of my favorite stores, which is now no longer here, was Debenhams. And that was a department store that had many of the different concessions. And so I would literally get a personal shopper to run round and find different outfits for me, which would work for my budget. And I always got really, really good quality without spending lots of money. And I always seem to hit the sales. Don't ask me how I did that. I just did. And the other thing about social media, which Dr. Justina MUTALE has mentioned, is that nowadays we are much more pictured and it wouldn't look good. And I really do endorse what Justina MUTALE has been saying about being seen in the same dress, the same outfit, the same suit. You could get away with it maybe 2 decades ago, but where I was doing lots of formal gatherings and formal dinners, but now I don't feel that you can in the same way. So I'd much rather have a number of items so that I could look glamorous in different colors and different styles at different occasions, rather than being chosen and showed up as only having one outfit.
Thank you, Caroline. I love that. It's so funny because I don't know the three of you like the back of my hand, but I already know what you're going to say. Dr. Chan, what do you have to say?
Well, I've got 2 answers for both of them, actually. The only way that I would buy an expensive dress, would be for a wedding dress. Absolutely a wedding dress. Even though I'm not getting married and I don't have a person for that, I would spend the money for the wedding dress. However, for social media, in order to keep up influencer or as a public figure, it's absolute crucial to have, not to be seen in the same dress or jacket. But the great thing about it is when you coordinate, as long as you have something, I think that the rule was, if you have something that's kind of high street, but if you have accessories like shoes, if you have shoes and bag and accessories that are expensive, that makes the whole outfit expensive.
That's right. That's right.
I wanted to say something about expensive outfits. Just the other day on TikTok, I saw a TikTok thing of, I think it was Jennifer Parker from Sex and the City, where she was saying, oh, you see, this handbag is not a real Hermes handbag. I know a person who knows a person who knows a person, but my dress is a real designer dress or something like that.
Yeah.
For me, like I said, I wouldn't buy a dress over £1,000 or even maybe, you just have to have a good eye for fashion. Sometimes even something that you get for £20, you could look $1 million.
That's right. Absolutely.
And another thing that I normally would do, I'd go to the factory outlets where you get the same thing for much less. So sometimes when you look at fashion, it's in a way kind of luxury brands kind of overpriced. There's no need for anybody to spend that much money. I also recall one of the celebrities here in the UK, they had written about her in the newspapers. She was talking about why would she buy a Louis Vuitton belt for £1,000 when she could get it for £10 from somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody somewhere. And because she's a celebrity, you would think that she had spent the £10,000 and you want to go and spend the £10,000. And another thing about expensive fashion, when you look at the people, for example, that the celebrities, the Hollywood celebrities going to the Oscars, we have to remember that the clothes they wear are lent to them just for that day, just for that occasion. They haven't spent money on it. So you can't try and compete with them because you're going to run out of pocket. You'd have to go and buy the dress that Beyonce was wearing or Lupta was wearing, but that was given to them by Chanel or whichever designer it is. And that is why most of the time you see them wear something only once because it is not theirs.
And the jewelry too. All the jewelry is on loan, everything.
And it's borrowed only specifically for that day, and you won't see them repeat that outfit again because it's not theirs. At the end of the day, the owners collect it back. They lend it to them for advertising. And then which gets young people wanting also to look like the way Beyonce looked and to try and find that outfit and to spend a lot of money when Beyonce didn't spend a penny at all. So these are some of the things that we need to be aware of. And I once with my former organization, we did a trip to India on what we called gender and entrepreneurship or something. But what I found there, we visited some factories. And I realized that in the same factory, the same people are just churning and making these clothes, the same people, the same clothes, the same fabric, and then all these shops or designers are coming to pick those clothes and putting their label on it. So you see that the same thing you found in Primark, which you could get for £3, you go to Marks and Spencer and have to get it for £30, but it's the same thing. It's only the label that is different. So when we spend money, we are actually buying the label and not the actual thing. That it's not the value. And I also learned in economics that the price that somebody asks you to pay is not the value of the thing. It's just what they want you to pay for that thing. That is why you find all these different prices. And I also learned that in those same factories, when, for example, if they make a slight mistake or they delay in delivering the stuff, the same clothes, they sell them for £1.
I love what you just shared there, because going back to the factory, we interviewed someone who was in the nail polish business. And what he shared with us was that Chanel nail polish is exactly the same as this brand, that brand. It's all together and they put it into different packages. So buyer beware. And I wanted to share with you a little bit about my evolution. I remember I got divorced 1999. I kind of went on a spending spree and I moved back with my parents, and UPS came to the door and my dad's like, what is all this stuff? They had huge boxes, those wardrobe boxes. I think there were 3 of them. My dad's like, this can't be for us. It's got to be for somebody else. And he's like, Jacalyn Kerbeck, oh, it's my daughter. What has she done now? So I start taking out, it's Dior. And I'd gone to New York and I had a personal shopper and I got all these things. And my father looked at me and he said, have you lost your mind? Is there something that's not computing with you? So it ended up, I took all of it back except for one thing. And I really learned a lesson, because he said, do you realize how hard it is to make the money? You know, you went through an emotional time, right? Getting divorced. So you're a little screwed up right now. He said, but if you thought about how much time it takes to make the money to buy those things and all the things that you could do, you could be helping other people with it. So now my clothes are from vintage stores. They're They're usually hand-me-downs, and I'm usually wearing the same, but I'm accessorizing, and that's where the difference comes in. So I want to talk a little bit about there's a street in New York. I don't know if it's still known for this. I think it was Canal Street, where you literally could pull up and there were vans and they had all kinds of counterfeit products. And I think this is a long time ago, but people were purchasing fake bags. And then the stories came out about the children who were working in factories to manufacture these bags. And then I think they cracked down on it in the US. What was it like there in London? Did you hear anything about this?
I don't know that particular instance, but this is a big thing in the UK, counterfeit product, which has been badly made and basically made in sweatshops, they call them here, so they get immigrants in and pay them next to nothing in very, very terrible conditions, or they're getting them to manufacture the goods in places like India and places that are much, much poorer, and essentially then importing them over for a higher price, but cutting the brands. And so there's the brand's price. And so there is whole teams investigating this counterfeit production. And I actually knew someone when I was gallivanting in my socialite days, who was in Trading Standards, it was called, and he was always going out hunting for the counterfeit goods. And he would share stories about places like you're suggesting, sort of the vans and actually warehouses that have got all these counterfeit goods, and they seize them. And many of them have fire hazards. They're not made very well, and there's also the same counterfeiting in toys as well, which is not the subject of today, but that's even more prevalent in terms of sort of fire risk. But a lot of the clothes that they catch are fire risk assessed, and they don't come up to scratch. So you could be just hanging out next to a radiator and your dress will catch fire. So yes, it's a big deal, and they haven't cracked it, and they're still cracking it, and it's a huge thing, because people want the brand, but they don't want to pay the money.
Yeah. And go ahead, Dr. Mutale. Thank you, Caroline. They were great points.
I know about Canal Street, and also this idea of counterfeit goods. Sometimes those goods are not counterfeit. They are the real things from the real factory. I just read when it happened, I did see the news. And again, just yesterday, another person started talking about how luxury brands want to keep those high prices. They take such drastic measures that the stuff that they don't sell this season, or stuff that they can't sell, they wouldn't give it to charity or anybody. They would rather burn that stuff. Wow. There is the story. If you Google, I won't mention the brand. I just realized I'd mentioned a few brands, and I think it's unfair to them, where they burnt merchandise of almost $3 billion.
Wow.
Just so nobody can get it if they are not going to pay that price. One, two, they say they didn't want it to be common, so they didn't want it to be easily reachable to anybody at any on any budget. So what happens is that stuff, those luxury stuff, could have been put onto the market, and then they'll call it that it's counterfeit, when in actual fact it is not. And what happens also in those factories, because the people that work in the factories are paid not even minimum, below slave wages, as you said. Sometimes what they do, when the designer orders, for example, 10 bags, they want 100 bags of this design, they will make 200. They'll give the designer the 100 and take the other 100 through the window. And if they are going to be paid $1 a day, and they take out the extra 100 through the window and sell it at $10, they are still making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they are still making making a lot of money by taking it out through the window. But it is the real thing. But the brands want to cut down on that and want to make it like, we've just made a limited edition of this. We've only got 50 all over the world and all that, and these people will bring it out through the window. So talking about Canal Street, I also read about one of the top top department stores in the US, where they caught the buyer at Canal Street ordering those designer clothes and taking them to that big department store. So the only difference here is that the thing you are getting, there's no difference on the thing you are getting. Like I said with the two women that I mentioned, is that, are you getting it at Canal Street yourself? Or has the buyer from that big store gone and collected it and brought it into their shop? Then they had inflated the price like 10 or 10 times more what the price is at Canal Street. This also, you could Google it. The story is there, where this buyer from this very big department store in the US was caught. They used to go and buy the stuff from Canal Street and bring it into their shop. So we have to be careful. Like I said, that's what I learned in the economics, is more expensive better, because sometimes it's just the same thing you could get for £1 and you could still get it for £1,000, but it is the same thing. It's just the source. Where are you getting it from?
I didn't know a lot of that. That is really interesting. So if you think about a designer bag, and the designer bag is selling for $5,000, the value is $5,000. What is the value to you or me is a different story. And now you get the bag for $50. Does the bag mean as much at 50 as it would at 5,000? Because at 50, maybe 100 people are getting it. At 5,000, maybe 10 are getting it. So are you looking for that exclusivity, that ability to say, well, I'm one of 10, or I have this designer bag?
The thing is, it's the same bag. It's just
right.
Where are you getting it from? Like I said, that luxury brand that had to burn stuff that valued at over $3 billion just so that nobody could reach it. But if you had gone and bought one for $5,000 when it was in the shop, and then you find that they had given it, for example, to a charity shop, and the charity shop was selling it for $5,000. It's just that it's a crazy thing, because it's the feeling that you think, oh, because I spent $5,000 on this, it is dear to me. But it's the same thing that the next person is carrying for $5.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about the big picture.
Yeah.
There's an entrepreneur who started out very small in Beverly Hills, and I don't even know how I found out about it. This is a very long time ago. And now the bags are resale. So you have the designer bag, and then you sell it to them, or they put it on display. So people go on the website and they pick it, and then you get a certain amount. Well, now they are in one of the biggest, most popular stores in the United States. It might be the same department store you were talking about, where you can buy sustainable fashion products that have been worn or used by other people. So it's like sustainability has come to the mainstream department store. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like recycling.
Yes.
I love it. But for me, Dr. Jacalyn, I was exposed when I went to Thailand. I was 24, and I feel that I was really blessed to be exposed. It was horrible, but I was exposed to how people, do you remember the Gucci bags? Everyone was into the Gucci bags and the Louis Vuitton. There was the different Louis Vuitton suitcases, and the bags that came into a lemon and a very bottle green Louis Vuitton bag. And I noticed there was a lot of tourists going there to buy these bags, which of course they're about over 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, but they were selling them for literally like $50, even less than that. Then at the same time, I then befriended my friend who has a factory, she took me to where they lived. And I'm not kidding you, it was a barge, and there was a whole colonies of family, of Thai, little babies, children, just all packed into this barge. And the sanitation was, it stunk. It was terrible, terrible conditions. And it made me realize at that point, where I was exposed to that, I could have gone on that path of buying designer and this designer dresses, and even running into debt with buying. I was exposed to that, so it's almost kind of, it just put a block for me for designer wear. Immediately, life showed me the reality of it, even before I even got into designer wear. The block was there for me.
But saved yourself a lot of money, that's for sure.
Yeah, I guess so.
And it's terrible that people are living in conditions like that. And I know that you all travel and see what it's like when people are struggling just to find water, as opposed to thinking about $5,000 for a bag. How do you think the pandemic has also had an impact on fashion, sustainability, and ethical brands? Because I think when people were working from home, I know right now I'm wearing slippers, by the way. I never wear my high heels, because where am I going? I'm not going anywhere, and I probably can't walk in them anymore. So how do you feel that the pandemic, with I think it's called athleisure wear, where people are now, they're doubling their clothes to wear to the gym, and they're wearing them out at night. I don't know. How do you think it's impacted all of us?
Well, from my perspective, I'm seeing a lot of people that are saying in that corporate world that on the top, they're wearing their shirt or their blouse, very pretty blouse. And then underneath, they're in ski pants or jogging trousers, or sometimes, even in their pajamas and in their slippers. And it is very much joked about in the UK, particularly, that that it's a time that they can actually not worry about being in the suits and to be in the comfort of their own home in their pajamas. And there is so many jokes and memes about the fact that they're in their pajamas at the bottom, but nobody can see. Now, you don't know what I'm wearing underneath. And I'm also, in jogger ski pants and fluffy socks to keep my feet warm. But, on the top, I'm looking the part. And so it's about feeling comfortable now rather than having to perform. And so people have become much more conscious about feeling that they don't have to dress up. And so there's a bigger expense, and there's more money being spent on leisure wear, I would say, than there has been on formal wear.
Yes, excellent point. Excellent. Dr. Mutale, would you like to add something?
Yes, I would agree with what Caroline has said, that because people are working more from home, there's no need to keep going out and buying new clothes. You just need enough that you can you can use when you occasionally have to go out and go to in-person meetings, or maybe some of those appointments or lunches or dinners. But as to do with work, and especially working from home, people can keep recycling what they are wearing, because nobody would really see. For example, she said she's wearing leisure wear at the bottom. I'm doing the same thing, even on this TV. I didn't. That's the good thing, because I didn't realize what time we were coming on, because last week I think we had said about 9 p.m. UK time, and I was deep into some document when I thought, oh, let me just check with you, and you said it's 5 minutes. So all I did was take off the tracksuit top and put on this jacket, and here I am.
Yeah, you look great. I love it. That reminds me that I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. And so I follow the people in Shark Tank, and Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, is one of them. And he actually filmed this. I thought this was so cool. He was being interviewed. I don't know if it was MSNBC, one of the big network stations. And he had on his black jacket that he normally has on. I think his red watch and his black tie and his white shirt with the cuffs. And then there was one camera that you could see he was being interviewed and what he looked like. And then there was another camera and he was wearing pink and green leisure pants, like big pajama pants with pink flip-flops. And they showed the television. It was on Instagram. They had a television of him on the network, and then they had him with the leisure. It was hysterical, but everyone's doing it. So I feel like sustainability with pajamas is really doing well. One thing we haven't had a chance to talk about, we'll have to do another segment, is about ethical brands. I think that's really important. And Caroline, you did some research and found a great resource of how to find ethical fashion. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it's a website, and if you can share the link on the chat on the broadcast, where you can actually find sustainable brands and fashion. And what they mean by sustainable is a lot of the things that we've been talking about in terms of the whole chain of events, in terms of how it is made. Is the materials ethical? Is the people that are working on it ethical? Have they been paid the right amount of money? And it's every part of the network, and we haven't, this person isn't sponsoring, this brand isn't sponsoring this event. It's just that when I was looking and researching, I found this website, and you can literally put in the different brands and it gives it a thumbs up or not good or really good. And I thought it was really good because there were some brands that I was looking at that I'm familiar with, like Zara, for instance, which is a big chain in the UK, and where a lot of people are wearing clothes from that particular brand, and they're being very successful. And it's giving you percentages of where they are good and where they're not, and where they have sustainability. And I thought it was really good. So you can put in any of the brands, and they've got a whole scope of brands that you can look at, and they're giving you what their ethical status is, and if they're good to, they have got a fashionable sustainability in terms of everything that they do. So looking at that, it just gives you a little bit more information. It gives you a little bit more understanding about buying an ethical and sustainability brand fashion.
And I think it's interesting because when we think about ethical brands, to me, the first thing that comes to mind is makeup, cosmetics, hair products not being tested on animals. But I hadn't really thought about it when it comes to fashion and material. Dr. Chan, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, in the way that there is a darker side to ethical brands.
Whoops,
and
sorry.
choices. Yeah, because let's say when you're at school, and if you come from a privileged family and you're wearing the best Nikes, or and the other your other friends are buying kind of high street fashion, they got bullied, and vice versa. So there is a darker side with having designer, in the way that how much it has caused a lot of pain and anguish and destroyed people's lives.
It's powerful. Yeah. We're coming to the end. Would anyone like to weigh in on what anyone else has said about anything?
Yeah, what Dr. Madalene has said is correct, and that happens a lot in schools. But I remember reading a story where this young girl, her mom had, she came from a low social income background, and her mother had made her a coat made of different patches of different fabrics. And she went to school, and her friends started bullying her and laughing at her. But she stood very firmly, and she said, well, this coat, my mother made it for me with love. So I love it, and I'm going to keep wearing it. It doesn't matter what you say. And I think that was quite profound, that the child understood that they didn't need to compete with those children that were wearing designer stuff. For her, what was important was that the coat, no matter how much it might have been valued at, was the fact that it was made by her mother, and her mother had taken time to put it together.
I love that.
Wow, I love that too. Thank you. Beautiful. Anyone else before we close out?
I'd like to endorse what just Dr. Justina has mentioned about Made with Love, because my mum actually did something for me, a fancy dress for Halloween. And I was very upset because I hadn't actually gone out and purchased anything. We didn't have the money then to go and do the extra stuff when I was quite young. And so my mum says, let me just cut up one of my lingerie slips and see what it looks like. I says, I'm not wearing that. And I was really quite pretentious about it and very upset. Anyway, she cut it up and she made it look really nice. And I put it on and I actually won the competition for best dressed. And when I came home, my mum said, I told you. And so it's not about what we think it's about. You know, I thought as a child that I needed to go to a store and buy something. And because we didn't buy something specific for the occasion, that I wasn't showing up properly. But my mum actually taught me some really good values that, you know, it's not about what you go and spend on it. It's about what you do to create it. And my mum did make it with love. And so I really endorse what Dr. Justina Mutale has said, you know, in terms of being made with love, because I was really, really antagonistic to my mum about this Halloween dress that she'd done. And as I said, I won and I was really pleased, and it made me appreciate what my mum had taught me in terms of values much more, and to be not so pretentious about what I think people want to see versus what they do see and what they do embrace.
How we have all grown and evolved. Really beautiful. And I hope that people out there are taking some wonderful points away from this. I just feel there's so much more to be discussed about this topic, because it's a topic that leads into other topics and so on. So let's plan on continuing this conversation next week. I would love to have you go around for people who are new. They've never been to our platform before. They're seeing you for the first time. What can you do to bring value to their life, and how can they reach out to you? Dr. Mutale.
I am the author of The Art of Iconic Leadership, where I talk about the power secrets of female world leaders, and of course, what makes female leaders more effective than male leaders. So I'd coach you on reaching out into the powers that are within you to make you an iconic leader. You can reach me on all social media platforms. I am just at Justina Mutale, and my email is also justinamutale@justinamutale.com.
All right. We also have Justina Mutale at hotmail.com, so we'll have to change that. But Dr. Mutale is definitely out there and posting really relevant content. So thank you. Caroline HEWARD, the Harley Street stress expert. How can you help people and how can they find you?
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Well, I help people bust their stress, as our panel knows. And I do that in many different ways. And so many times people are walking around and they're saying, I'm not stressed, but I didn't sleep very well, or they're complaining about a relationship, or they're complaining about something that's happened at work, or they've got a physical ache and pain, like sort of low back pain, neck pain. That's your stress. That's how it's manifesting in your body and in your life. And I help you break through and identify the root cause of what's created that repeating pattern of stress in your life, because it's like a revolving door. We feel that we've solved something, and then we have the same feeling, the same experience, the same physical, emotional, mental ache and pain. And it's that I help you break through. I use root cause therapy and chakra psychology, as well as counseling and coaching and mentoring. You can reach me on nomorestress@live.co.uk, or call if you're international, +44 if you're international, local 07523 120 189. And I offer an incredible 1 hour introductory consultation for a silly price of £50. That's an introductory price for your first session. And we will look at 3 symptoms to break through so that you have an incredible night's sleep and bust your stress.
That's right. Coming soon. Bust your stress. Dr. Chan can help you write this song. Tell us about how you bring value, Dr. Chan, and how can people reach you?
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. I'm very interested in anyone who wants to have the perfect gift for their family. Can you imagine a song that's a family generational song where all parts of the family have contributed in writing that special song for that loved one, for that baby that's they're about to birth? And that song would be the song that gives them the courage, gives them a healing, gives them the strength and the support. And what I can do is I can help you to co-write a song. At the same time, I can help you to be in connection with your creative soul, heart, genius. That's what I can do. And you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find me on Facebook. Yeah, that's me, Dr. Madalene Chan, and I'm a creative soul, heart awakener.
Thank you so much. And we will make sure that all of your contact information is updated and put into the comments. So thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. And do stay tuned for our part 2 of this show, which will be led and hosted by Caroline HEWARD and Mariska Dupree. And of course, either one of you are welcome. Dr. Mutale, Dr. Chan, you can join for part 2 as well. All right. Thank you, panel. Look forward to seeing you right after this or next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thank you, everyone, for being here. As I mentioned, Women's Prerogative Part 2 is coming up next, followed by 2 fabulous shows. The first is the Be Fit Project, which is myself, Dr. Jacalyn, and Brandon Eskel. And we are going to introduce to you the 21-day challenge to get fit. And for 10 lucky people, earn $1,000. How do you do it? Watch the show and you'll find out. Followed by Live, Learn, Teach, and Inspire, brought to you by the British School of Excellence. We're going to close out now with some of our sponsorships. We have a brand new sponsor, which is really exciting about fashion. So stay tuned and join us for our next episode. Bye for now.
Women of the Caribbean and around the world, are you tired of the status quo? Tired of barely making ends meet? Tired of giving maximum effort for minimum results? Are you in need of change, a fresh start, a new outlook, a new perspective? It's time to break through. Join us along with women from around the world at the Empower Her Escape, a 5-day all-inclusive royal cruise to the Bahamas and Florida. Connect with world leaders and influencers and begin afresh your journey to more. Hear dynamic speakers with sessions on women in leadership, the importance of mentorship, how to start a business from the ground up, financial literacy, an integrated approach to wellness and wholeness, and so much more. Guest speakers include First Lady Anne-Marie Davis of the Bahamas, Her Royal Highness Katerina of Yugoslavia Lady de Silva, Her Royal Highness Queen Sekothali Mephena of South Africa, and Coach Max, Global Multi-Six-Figure Wealth Coach. Cruise packages include 2 nights at an all-exclusive resort, gratuities, taxes, and port fees, red carpet welcome and extravaganza, course materials, and a souvenir gift bag, flight not included. The Empower Her Escape Cruise takes place on May 15th through the 19th, 2024, departing from the port of Palm Beach, Riviera Beach, Florida. Hosts for this life-changing event are Coach Cherish Hollingsworth of Florida and Coach Mercy Gilbert of the UK. For more information, visit our website at www.empowerherroyalescape.com or call us at 954-203-6608. or email us at cherishresiliencecoach@gmail.com. Connect, collaborate, celebrate at the Empower Her Escape Cruise.